Wow, the Daf does not sleep, but I do need sleep though. It has I'm so busy. Like some days, I don't have time. I have to prepare the Daf. There's nothing I can do about it. The Daf is not going to Machayev. Yeah, I have to. And you guys keep me anchored. So thank you. Okay. Zok the Heilige Mishnah. We are starting a new parak, and just a short introduction to this parak. It's called Shevuos Eidus. Yeah, we went from Shevuos Shtayim. I think we had 2 parakim called Shevuos Shtayim. Then Yediyas Atumim, a little kachim over there, and now we go into Hilchos Eidus. The mitzvah in the Torah that if you know Eidus, you could testify for someone else and help him out. Then you have to come give the testimony if he asks you to come, and if you don't, you're over on imlo yagid v'nasa v'inai. There's an avera, and it's not a avera to be taken lightly. And usually people don't want to testify in court because who wants to get into a hot seat? Who wants to get into an argument with somebody else? But you have to. And there's what we call Shevuos Eidus. Shevuos Eidus means if you swear to somebody, I don't know Eidus, don't pressure me. I swear I didn't see that you lent the guy $100, or I swear I don't know about it, or I swear I'm not going to do it. Just stop bothering me. And you're found to be a lawyer. You have to bring a carbon. We'll see. So Shevuos Eidus. Who's chayiv on Shevuos Eidus? Daf Lamed. We're just starting the Mishnah. You came just in time for the Mishnah. Shevuos Eidus. Neheges ba'anoshim v'loy b'noshim. So obviously, it'll only be a violation of that Shevuah if you're eligible to give that testimony. So a man versus a woman. B'chaykin v'loy b'kravin. Only a rachayk. Yeah, I'm triggering another conversation there. Yeah. Okay. Right? Yeah, okay. We're not going to get involved in the conversation of...
The Mishnah said it. You didn't say it.
No, he wants to know, what if there's a man who identifies a woman? Is he possible or not? Okay, that's something else.
No, it's even more controversial. Only men are chayiv to give testimony. A woman, her testimony isn't even taken.
That's right. That's why there's no Isser Shevuah for a woman who says, I'm not going to test it, because she anyways is not eligible.
With one exception.
She's not qualified.
This would be another great short.
Yeah, there are exceptions. There are 2 exceptions. Yeah.
This would be another great short. Women's testimonies aren't counted?
Right.
Oh, wow.
Oh, this is going to be a great... Oh, this should go viral. Women are not... Yeah, do you know, by the way, why women are not kosher l'eidus? There's a Yalkut Shemoni, we'll talk about that. There's a lot of stuff on that.
It could be a compliment, not an insult.
Called Kavod Bas Melech Pnima is a nice svar, yeah.
It could be a compliment.
Yeah. The Gemara is going to talk about that as well.
The man is more rational.
There you go. We'll get involved in that. Okay, very nice. Very nice, Reb Shul. Yeah. Okay, we're getting a little... What? You can what?
They want to go to
They can swear their opinion.
You can swear their opinion. No, only women should go to jury. I'm saying,
if you don't want to do it, then don't be kosher l'eidus. It's a 2-way street.
No, I'm saying
Take the good with the bad and the bad with the good.
Remember my cousin Ethel?
Yeah, Beisurin. Yeah, they are. That's true. Yeah.
Remember my cousin Ezra,
Yeah, sure.
So he has an ex in Israel.
Yeah.
He was very lonely for that.
Okay.
So today was he had anyway he was able to tell him Machaim. Suddenly he went to apply for a license for a gun in Israel. She said that he's dangerous.
He's too dangerous.
He's scared and he's too dangerous for the public.
Yeah.
Rasha. So he was very, very nervous. התקשר אליי, I said, I'm going out where I said, התחלתי לקלל אותה, אמרתי לו, I was very upset. I told him, don't worry. מה שהיא עושה עכשיו, היא לא תצליח. ככה אמרתי, היא לא תצליח.
Right.
והיא עשתה כאילו תרגיל, היא לא באה כאילו לפחד ממנו, וממש ככה היה, השופטת, בדרך כלל ליברל.
Yeah.
כמו שאני התהפכה על השופט הזאת, וחייבה אותה לשלם לו את כל ההוצאות של האטורני.
Wow, that's quite a story.
אומר לי שאול, זה לא קרה בחיים.
Oh, that's quite a story. We should have the camera on up shoulder for this one. Okay.
Rotate.
Shevuos Eidus. We got to go because we're not going to be able to finish the daf. We'll start again. Today we're starting a new parak, Shevuos Eidus, Daf Lamed. Shevuos Eidus neheges ba'anoshim v'loy b'noshim. It's only noyeg, the Isser Shevuos Eidus is only noyeg if you are qualified to testify, which is a man, not a woman. If you're not related. If you're related, also, doesn't apply to you. Only if somebody's kosher and not psul. Rashi says, who's a pasul? L'mashal a gazlan, right? A gazlan touches 8 chamas. So if a gazlan swears, I'm not going to give testimony, no biggie. Why not? Because anyway, it's not kosher. And it's only noyig, anyone who is qualified to give eidus b'fnei bezin. Rashi says, what's this coming to add? Gemara is going to explain it. And mepi atzmoi, it's only if he says it mepi atzmoi, if he is the one who initiates and articulates the Shevuah clearly. But in mepi acherim, but if somebody else comes to him and pushes him, come give testimony, you answer, I don't know. He says, swear to me. And then you say, I swear to you. You don't actually repeat it, but you just say, okay, right? Or amen, we saw yesterday. That's only if you did it in front of Bezdin, that's when you're chayiv. So it's mepi acherim, it's only in front of Bezdin. Mepi atzmo is even outside of Bezdin. Chacham moimim no. Bein mepi atzmo, bein mepi acherim, and chayav and achikra bein Bezdin. Machlokes Chacham and Rabbi Meir. Chacham say, even if it's mepi acherim outside of Bezdin, you're also chayiv. You're chayiv in this case is one of the few cases in the Torah where you chayiv a carbon on a mazid. In other words, even if you intentionally swore, I don't know Eidus. You knew you're lying. You know Eidus. What are you saying? You don't know Eidus. I swear I don't know Eidus. And you knew it's usher to swear, right? You're mamish amazed through and through. There is a carbon that you bring, and there is no malchus on this. And the Chinuch explains there are many reasons given. Rabbi Shaul explained a few days ago. The doctor had an explanation. Everybody offered their own insight, but there is what to say about it. People don't want to ruffle feathers. People are scared, and that could be taken into account when you try to categorize him in the shogeg or mezid categories. It could be that the fear plays in, even though he knew it's usher, but that's also a shogeg. Or the Chinuch says it's very common, so the more common an avera is, the Rebbeinu Shalom tries to make the tshuva easier. So either way, it's yeah. So either way, a mezid v'chayovan al zadoina shavua. This is the type of shavua you bring a carbon even b'mezid. V'ashagigasa im zadoina edus, which means that if you are a shoygig, you didn't realize that the consequence of making this false shvuah would be mechayiv you a carbon, that you'd also be chayiv a carbon. But if you're mamish a shoygig gomor, right, then you do not. If you're mamish shoygig gomor, which means you didn't remember that you knew the testimony, you didn't realize that it's asur to swear, like through and through on both accounts, then you do not bring a carbon. Why not? Because if you didn't remember that you knew testimony, right, then that's a problem of ha'adam b'shvuah. Person has to consciously be aware of what he's saying. If you didn't know that it's asur, and you didn't know that what you're saying is not true, it's like somebody says, it's Evan, he really believes it's Evan, right? He really believes it. Then it's not a shvuah. He has to be an adam b'shvuah. It's like Mar said, Rav and Rav Kahan and Rav Asi used to argue after going out of the shiur of Rav. He said, I swear Rebbe said this, and he said, I swear Rebbe said that. And then Rav came in the next day, said one of them is right, the other one says, I swore falsely. Shvuah Shav. He says, no, Adam b'shvuah. You really believed it. When you really believe it, then that lacks in an Adam b'shvuah. Memela, you don't bring a carbon on that. The chayoven al zadoina shvuah. But she goes, no, man chayoven. And what are they chayiv when they taka are chayiv? Al zadoina shvuah. Some erase these words al zadoina shvuah because even b'shogeg carbon oil v'yored, right? Even a carbon, you bring a carbon oil v'yored al zadoina shvuah. So the Gemara, Manon Emili, how do I know, says Rashi, Manon Emili, denashim psules la'edus. How do I know that women are pasul la'edus? Very interesting. How do I know they're pasul la'edus? The Gemara brings a pasuk, the Tana Rabbanah, Amdu shnei anoshim be'edam akasam adaber. We're talking about Edom over there. If you have the pasuk on the side of your Gemara, you can see the full pasuk before we start the sugya. Amdu shnei anoshim asher lehem ariv lifnei Hashem. Pasuk is in Devarim, Yutes, Yudzayin. It says, now if you read this pasuk, you would think that this pasuk is actually talking about who are the Shnei Anashim in the pasuk. Who would you say? It's the Edom or the Baladinan? Probably Baladinan, right? It says Asher Lehem Hariv. Says the Bryce not like that. The Tanu Rabbanah, the Torah is referring to the Edom here. Maybe it's Baladinan. Read the pasuk. Asher Lehem Hariv. If it's talking about the Balei Riv, why does the Torah say, just say, V'amdu asher lehem riv? So the Shnei Anoshim are extra words. Extra words referring to the Edom. There's nothing extra in the Torah. So Gemara says, "Em nafshech aleimer."
So what is the word is extra? Amdu?
Shnei anoshim is extra. So it should have said va'amdu.
Shnei anashim is extra.
Yeah, it says va'amdu asher lehem ariv. They should stand up. Whoever are the baladina should stand in court. What is it? Va'amdu shnei anoshim asher lehem ariv. It's extra. So shnei anoshim means the edus, edus and the baladina. That's shnei anoshim asher lehem ariv. So once you see the Torah says edus with anoshim, you see that noshim are psulos. Yeah. So Gemara says nafshech aloymar, and if you'll ask a kasha, I'll answer you. Nemer kashnei evanemer lalon shnei ma'alalam be'edem avkan be'edem. Also, like Zereshava that teaches shnei anoshim shnei. It's talking about edem. What kind of kasha would have I asked? Mayim nafshech aloymar v'chitem imedloi kosav va'asher lehem eruv kulei krab b'aladina b'shtoi. If you look at the flow of the pasuk, it says v'amdu shnei anoshim. See in the pasuk over here. Thank you, Raki, for pulling that up. V'amdu shnei anoshim asher lehem eruv. Now, if it's referring to two separate people, two separate groups, right? Shnei anoshim is edus, hashlem river the baladina. It should have said v'amdu. Oh no! If it's referring to the same group, which means the shnei anoshim is referring to baladina, then it should have. It sounds like it says it's the baladina because it says shnei anoshim asher lehem river is describing shnei anoshim, right? So that's the kasha. Otherwise, it should have said va'asher lehem river to separate, right? Shnei anoshim va'asher lehem river and also the two baladina. So that would have been the kasha. So maybe you see it's baladinan. Says the Gemara, I have a Zereshava nemer kashnei v'nemer laloshnei ma'alalam be'edem avkan be'edem. Okay, so the first source, how do we know that a woman is pasal edis? Because it says v'amdu shnei anoshim, and we know that shnei anoshim is referring to the edis, not to the baladinan, and it says anoshim and not noshim. I saw over here from the Yalkut Shemoni they bring down. Sha'ar Mitzion Balacha quotes the Yalkut Shemoni. He says the Medrash learns it from a different pasuk. How do I know noshim are psulas la'edis? Because v'techachesh Sarah bekirba. Sarah lied. Yeah, Sarah lied. Why did she lie? She was scared. So why was she scared? She's a woman. So this is going to be a great short, no? Yeah. So keep going. Right.
Although nowadays the men act like women.
What?
You're right.
This is what Shaul said. Yeah.
You're right.
So v'techachesh Sarah bekirba. Yeah.
They're scared, you know, because look what it says. כתוב שני אנשים עליהם מדבר הכתוב, כתוב שם נכון, ועמדו שני אנשים אשר להם מראים לפני השם.
Yeah.
זה לא לפני השם, לפני הכהנים והשופטים, זה פחד.
הפחד.
תעמוד לפני שופט.
הפחד.
That's what I meant.
Yeah.
They're usually swayed.
The what?
They're
They're easily swayed. Yeah. They're, noshim dait in kalas.
Yeah.
So, they might twist the truth just to be politically correct and be afraid. There's another pasuk that they bring over here. The Zayis Ranan. Agos Zayis Ranan says, maybe it's Parshas Bereishis. It says in the Klola Techava, it says V'hu Yimshal Bach, right? That he will rule over you. What does it mean? He'll rule over you. He says that's one of the test klolas in Pirkei Rebbe Eliezer that says that she's puzzle, she's psula lehayid. Why? Because it says ki shamata l'kol ishtecha. What was Adam's avera? He listened to his wife. So now the einish is we don't listen to the woman. Her words don't hold up in a court of law. Why? Because the original sin was that man listened to a woman. This is also a great YouTube short. Yeah, like whatever short, this will go fly, and they'll ban me. Yeah, but
That's the goal, right?
yeah, the idea is.
You make the video about how you got banned.
She says, so that's one of the klalas, and this is taka, by the way. This makes sense to me because a lot of klalas Chava was given, right? Childbirth. I never understood all the klalas she was given. How is it mida connected mida, measure for measure? Right? What's hot? Childbirth, right? What does that have to do with the Avera of
I told you.
it's a das? So Nathan once said to me, a teretz, what was the teretz you told me?
The Nachash was with her.
Ah.
Nachash wanted to be with her.
Aha.
No, the Zal said he was with her.
Aha. So that
what the
right.
Mesa was, right.
Right. So now, okay, so that's okay, that requires commentary. But here, even if you read the psukim, mamish before, it makes sense. Oh, don't listen. So that means not to listen to your wife. You find Bavram and Sarah, right? What was Shema B'Koila? Hashem says, listen to Sarah, right? Sarah was a greater nevuah or neviah than Moshe than Avraham Avinu. There you go. You have to know what to listen to her about and what not to listen to her about. Yeah. Yaakov says that when he got married to his wife, they made up right away in the beginning of their marriage. They made up that all the big decisions his wife is going to make. all the big monumental decisions, he's going to make the small decisions. Whether America should make peace with Iran, big decisions like that, his wife should be involved in those decisions. Those are the big decisions. Whether Israel should negotiate with Hamas, release that. Those are big decisions. The small decisions, where we live, what schools the kids go to, that I'll do. Yeah, that's how they keep the shalom bayis.
In Eretz Yisrael,
Yeah.
you have the Sarah Pnim, but Sarah
Sarah
Chutz.
Chutz.
The Sarah Pnim is the woman.
Love it.
Sarah Chutz is the man.
Love it. That's great. That's great. Al kol ponim, the Gemara goes weiter. Another brisa. Tanya idach, another brisa. V'am t'shnei anoshim be'edem ha'kas v'daber. It says v'am t'shnei anoshim. I know it's edem. Atar be'edem. Ayin elo b'baledinen. If you read the pasuk, the way it flows, it's certainly referring to the baledinen. So how do you know it's edem? Pesach, just in time for this brisa. Tanya idach. Mabbe started this brisa right now. V'am t'shnei anoshim be'edem ha'kas v'daber. When it says amdu, they should stand in front of a beis din, it's referring to Edom. After Edom, maybe it's Baladin. Amrid, Shnayim Bom Lin Shloisha Einam Baladin. Right? Usually at the Torah, right? You have two parties. It's called parties for a reason. Two parties. Sometimes a party can contain a bunch of people against, right, a company versus the city. I don't know. There's two parties. Why is Shnei? Why are you limiting a court case to Shnei Anoshim if you're talking about Baladinan? If it's Edom, it makes more sense, because if two Edom are enough, people don't usually bring more. Bring two Edom, it's enough. But Baladinan, everybody's showing up. They're fired up. They're fighting. So that's what Tais explains it. That's why the Gemara assumes that Shnei, once you give it a number, then it's probably Edom, not the Baladinan. And the Gemara says...
Actually, if you would say just Edim, I would think that it's Edim. Women, men, doesn't matter.
Yes.
But because it says Shnei Anashim, instead of Edim, is Mi'etet Anashim.
Mi'etet Nashim.
Mi'etet Nashim, Et HaNashim.
Yes. That was the early Gemara, right. And Nashim is Mamayet Nashim, right. Very good. Excellent. Yeah. Beautiful. That's exactly right. Right. You should have said Edom, and then it would include everybody. Right. But this Bryce is going on another diak. He's saying Shnei. How do I know it's Edom? Because it says Shnei. So it must be Edom. If you have a kasha on what I'm saying, I have Xer Shavah to back me up. What kind of question could you have on my diak of Shnei that proves that it's Edom? If you'll double down and say, no, Shnei also, you have a divorce, man and woman come to court. Yeah, there are Baladin plenty of times where it's one against one, a one-on-one. So it does fit the word Shnei, even if it's Baladinan. Says the Gemara, hey, for that I have Xer Shavah. Tanya Idach, third Bryce of Amdushnei Anoshim Be'edem Kasam Medaber Ata Omer Be'edem Oy Einoi Elo Be'Baladinan. How do you know it's Edom? Maybe it's Baladinan. Amrit, another source, another Bryce, another Diak in this pasuk that Shnei Anoshim is Edom, because V'chi Anoshim Boyin Ladin Noshim Ein Bois Ladin. Why, if it's Baladinan, why would you say, like Abshol just said, why would you say Anoshim? Women fight too, right? Sometimes women fight, better. They're not get involved. They be saying like there's a lot of politics there.
They fight and they scratch.
They bite and they scratch. They're like, gosh, I really want to go viral with this year. Noshim Baladin. Noshim Ein Bois Ladin. If you have a kasha on what I'm saying, I have Xer Shavah to back me up. What kind of question could you have on my diak of why is Anoshim, if it's Baladina, why is it stressing Anoshim over Noshim? Noshim also come to Din Torahs. No, maybe Isha Lav Urcha, maybe it's not the way for a woman to go out to court. That's what you said, yeah? Right, so therefore I have Xer Shavah to back me up. So bottom line, the Omdu Shnei Anoshim is referring to the Edom. And Anoshim Veloy Noshim. And that's how we know. I'm sorry, and men and not women. What?
A woman shouldn't become a lawyer or a judge.
A woman cannot be an aide. Cannot be.
My question is.
You're asking that. I don't know. I don't want to get involved in this.
These are all great YouTube.
There's one of the. There's one of the Hasidic women became a judge in Brooklyn, Mrs. Fryer. So. I don't want to. We're not get involved whether who's going to judge or not. I think times have changed. I think that. Yeah. Very famous. She's a judge in Brooklyn. He's asking, Kalkvud Bas Melech Pnima. It says Urcha. It's not the derech. Yeah, there are exceptions. Certain people are.
Judge Judy.
Judge Judy, right? She's Jewish?
Judy
Ooh, what's her last name?
Shineland.
Her husband's also.
Wow, it's great.
Ruth Bader.
Who's that?
Ginsburg.
Yeah, she was.
Oh, Ruth Bader. Of course, Supreme Court Justice. Okay, those are the exceptions.
He
He loves it. He loves this stuff. Reb Shaul loves this stuff. He's kanoi. Don't be afraid, Reb Shaul. Speak the truth. Tana Rabbanan. Don't be afraid.
Put him in front.
Yeah, exactly. Tanu Rabbanan, another brayso. V'amdu shnei anoshim. It says va'amdu. Let's pull up the pasuk again, Rocky. You have the pasuk again? Right here. Okay, it says va'amdu shnei anoshim. Va'amdu shnei anoshim asher lehem ariv, right? So the word va'amdu, A is going into Edom, because shnei anoshim is Edom. But it also says va'amdu shnei anoshim asher lehem ariv. It's also in the Baladina. Says the brayso. What do you learn from over here? Va'amdu shnei anoshim mitzvah lebalei dinin. It's not just a mitzvah for the Edom. Edom have to stand while they give testimony. It's also the Baladinin have to stand. That's a mitzvah for the Baladinin. In other words, it's not. Yeah, that's not a kama. Omer Rabbi Yehuda Shamati. I heard if you want to seat both, you can't seat one without the other because then you're favoring. But if you want to seat both, then you're allowed to. Gemara says. Ezo aser, what's aser? Echad oimed echad yoshev, echad madaber kol tzarkav, echad like katzei devarecha. You cut someone short, and the other you let explain. So that, of course, you can't have favorites, but if you want to treat them equally, then they can both sit down as well. That's Rabbi Yehuda. So machlokes Tanakam Rabbi Yehuda, whether the Baladinan have to stand, or if you treat them equally, can they sit as well? Ton Rabbanan, betzedek tishboi tamisecho. It says in the Torah, shloi echad yoshev, echad oimed, echad medaber, echad. In other words, do it righteously. When you judge your friend, treat them equally, betzedek. Treat them equally, and this way you don't display any favors. Davar acher, favoritism. Davar acher, betzedek tishboi tamisecho. Havedon es chavercha lekav zechus. The famous Mishnah, Havedon is kol adam lekav zechus. Right, the famous Vart. Kol adam means take the entire person into account. Don't just take one part of him. Every person is complex. We're complex human beings, and there are dark sides, gray sides, white sides, all kinds of parts inside of us that are playing a role in our behaviors, and you have to take them all into account before you pass judgment. The Ben Yayod over here says something amazing. He says if you take the word betzedek, it can be split up into betzad, kuf, on the sides of kuf, the letter kuf. He explains the following. He says, how far do I have to go to be done l'kav zechus someone? If it makes sense, it's common sense to say, you know what? He came late because, he just had a baby. His wife is expecting, he probably had a baby. That's okay, that makes sense, But what if you can't find, under normal circumstances, a reason to excuse his behavior? Do you have to make up something far-fetched? How far do you have to go? So the Ben Yehoyada says, it's merumaz in the word betzedek. What do you see in betzedek? Betzad kuf, on the sides of the letter kuf. What are the two letters on the sides of the kuf? Before the kuf you have a tzadik, and after the kuf is tsar, which means narrow. Even if you have to go really narrow, betzad kuf, you have to go really narrow. Tishboi tamisecha, it's far-fetched, you still have to try to find somewhat of a zchus to be melamed zchus on a person.
This is Rabbi Nachman's favorite, famous Torah. The Resh Pei Bed, you have to look at the Nikuda Tova on every single person, and then once you see the Nikuda Tova, once you see they did at least one mitzvah in his life, you look at that, and then the one good point, that person will blast away all the darkness, and that's in terms of judging another person. Yeah. Looking at another person, even looking at yourself, that's as big. Especially yourself.
Especially yourself. Beautiful. It's very important.
If you think positively about another person, I heard this before.
I love this.
If you think positively about another person, then that other person will act differently.
It's like a positive energy you bring into the room.
That's beautiful.
I heard this b'shem Rabbi Nachman once.
Yeah. I'm going to tell you something. I just remembered a story. Yeah. I didn't. There's a guy who called me. This is unbelievable. There's a guy who called me because you just triggered that memory with what you said.
What is this?
Huh? I wish it was a moment. I really want him to get on camera because it's such an important story, actually. And I think we can all take this home tonight because, I'm sure that there's an undercurrent of grievances we all have in other people. So I think this is something that we could take home, including myself. So, not me. There was a guy called me. He's a fundraiser for a certain moisid, and he has a list, and he makes the calls. It's a very hard job to be a fundraiser, to make the calls and try to get the money. And he was chasing one guy on his list, and the guy used to give him very nicely, and suddenly he got difficult, and it was very difficult. He's going to call me back, wait for me here, wait for me over there, come later, come earlier. He played him like avoiding him, but he led him on, and he didn't show up, and just felt really bad, and he basically labeled him on his Google Doc, on his Excel. He labeled him as the manipulator.
No.
The guy who keeps manipulating him, and he just labeled him a name. Didn't stop him from trying. He still tried, but nothing doing. He says it was like maybe a year or two, and he was still trying. He didn't give up. This is his job. And he had him labeled. Then he decided one day, he says, you know what? Why am I labeling the guy? Why do I have this name on his this characterizing him like that? I don't want to do it. This label. So he deleted the manipulator part, like next to his name. Like he's like highlighted manipulator. He's angry. He says he called him the next day again. He says, come over, and he gave him a fantastic check. He says, I can't explain it. I'm running after him for 2 years, voiding me. And as soon as I take off the label, some energy shifted. And he was open to receiving him and giving him what he'd asked for. So I'm saying, I think that's what you were saying, right? You were saying this.
Think positively. And
Think positively. You'll create, yeah. Also, right? This is the way we think about other people. That's the way they perceive us. And people, the Rechaim HaKadosh says in Parashas Vayigash, he says that levavos medabrim zu lezu, that hearts speak to each other. And even if we are not, it's subconscious, even not consciously aware. I had a guy. How many times did it happen to you where you think of someone and he calls you?
Many times, yeah.
How many times? It says levavos medabrim zu lezu. And that's why, no question. As soon as you label somebody, there's a negative energy between the two of you, and they're not gonna respond, even if he consciously doesn't know it. Okay, weiter. Tanu Rav Yosef b'tzedek tishpta misecha. Another limud from Amisecha. Am she'itcha b'torah v'mitzvos. Ishtadol l'toyna yafa. Anyone who is a Talmud Chacham, Rashi explains, he learns Torah and he keeps mitzvahs, make sure l'doina yafa, which means, let's say the Dayan has two options. 2 Dinei Torahs came in front of him. He should dan the Talmud Chacham first. Not within the same Dinei Torah, but they're 2 separate Dinei Torahs. He should dan Talmud Chacham first, because that's an inyan of B'tzedek Tishpat HaMisecha. One is im b'Torah, am she'itcha b'Torah mitzvahs. You treat him first.
What do you mean if there is like 2 Balei Dinim coming?
2 different cases.
And so
You take the Talmud Chacham first,
yeah.
to let him go back and learn Torah, not to make him wait. Not to make him wait. Yeah.
Is worth more.
Well, yeah. Rav Ula brei Rav Ula avladina kamei Rav Nachman shalach le Rav Yosef. Okay, so Rav Ula brei Rav Ula came to the Torah to Rav Nachman. So Rav Yosef sent a letter to Rav Nachman saying, Ula chavereinu, our friend Ula, who's coming to you with the Torah, you should know is Amit b'Torah mitzvahs. Somebody's a big Talmud Chacham. Okay? Amar, so Rav Nachman says, Lamai shalach li. Why are you sending me this? L'chanufilei. To treat him differently, to favor him. Yeah? Hadar Amar, he said, no, l'mishra b'tigrei. If there are 2 Dinei Torahs, to judge him first, so I don't waste his time, he's a Talmud Chacham. That's why. Or, inami l'shuda dedaini. Sometimes, we had in Baba Basra, that sometimes, when Dayonim, in certain cases, they don't know how to paskin, then we'll leave it up to their own common sense, their own discretion. So that is Shuda Dedaini. So you have a character witness, who is likely the more honest guy. So that's what he said. If it comes to Shuda Dedaini, you should know that he is a'am she'itcha b'Torah mitzvahs. He's somebody who is Talmid Chacham and he keeps mitzvahs, and therefore he's reliable and trustworthy. Amar Ula, machloikes b'balei dinan. The machloikes of whether you have to stand or not, or you could sit down. The balei dinan is only balei dinan. But Edom divrei koil ba'amida. Everybody holds it has to be ba'amida. Why? The word va'amdu is right next to shnei anoshim, which are Edom. Ashalam is afterwards, so maybe that's a little distant from va'amdu. So maybe there it's optional, but not by the Edom. Certainly they have to stand. There's a beautiful lashon, by the way, from the Torah. The Torah says when you say vayichulu on Friday night, you have to stand. You have to stand. So Eidus lakadosh baruch hu amaisa bereshis, and he brings the pasuk va'amdu shnei anoshim. Just like in a court of law, you have to stand. So too, and he says tzrichim leheyed biyachad. You have to have another person. So that's why if you miss vayichulu, you'll see some people go over to somebody else and say it together ba'amida, right?
How did we made it? We didn't warn him there. That's the Chassam Sofer. That's the famous Chassam Sofer.
Ooh, wow. Okay.
There are those that Dafka won't do it to two people together.
Really? Why?
Yes. So Rabbi Brodowitz, I heard once says he's not makbid on it at all because of that, because of the Chassam Sofer. That's what the doctor is saying.
Aha.
Yeah.
Aha.
Because Beshita, what you're saying, Kadosh Baruch Hu needs 2 aids.
Aha. So it lacks, as if you're giving aidus to.
Right.
It's very interesting.
Since I heard this from him, I'm like, whatever happens, happens.
Okay, whatever happens, happens. Okay.
Okay. It's
okay. Roy Rabbi Brodowitz Lismachalov, he's definitely.
He said, I don't think he said he dafka does it. He said he's not so makbid on it. If it's translated, then he won't.
The Chidon Avodas HaKodesh says you have to be mahar b'tshuva before Kiddush. Why? Because Pasul is not Roy Le'edus, right? And a Pasul is somebody who is a Rasha. So Avad, you have to be mahar b'tshuva. And the Boyer V'atzeisoi, the Sefer brings the Archaim HaKodesh Erev Shabbos. Archaim HaKodesh every Erev Shabbos will learn Hilchas Eidus to prepare himself to give Eidus in Vayichulu. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world. Okay, weiter. So the Gemara Amar Ravuna, Machloikis b'shas ma'aseh matan. Machloikis is only when they're debating the case, when they are, what's the word called? Then I'm forgetting the word, it's not coming to me right now. Deliberating the case. Thank you, doctor's always there for me for the words. Aval b'shas gemar din, divrei hakoil, dayonin b'yeshiv balidina. Even Rabbi agrees, you have to stand. The balidina have to stand over there. T'chsev hayeshev Moshe lishpoit ha'sa'am, v'yamoy da'am. They stood. What's the source? The Edom ki Gemar Din damu. Because Edom are like Gemar Din. The Hagodas Edis la Gemar Din. And by Hagodas Edis, which is Gemar Din, it says, okay, so therefore, you have to stand by the Gemar Din. The Bisu de Ravuna, the wife of Ravuna, after Ravuna passed away, had a din Torah, Havaladina, came to Rav Nachman. And she came to Rav Nachman. Omar, so Rav Nachman said, I'm a shtickle in a bind. Why? Because she's an Eishes Chaver. Right? Her husband was Rav Huna, the great Rav Huna. The halacha is Eishes Chaver kechaver, and I have to stand up, right? If I stand up and she's coming with somebody else who she has tinus against, so that other guy is going to see that I'm treating this woman with more honor and respect. Mistat metanase. He's not the Baldina. He's not going to want to, or he's going to be stumped in his tinus. He's going to be insecure, intimidated. So lo yaikim, but if I should just stay seated. Eishes Chaver, Areyu Kechaver. Right, she's the wife of a Talmid Chacham of Rav Huna, one of the greatest people to ever live, one of the greatest Amoraim. So what should I do? Amalei Lishamesh, so he said to his Shamash, Tzei v'afrech alai bar Avza, came up with a patent. He said, go and bring me a bar Avza. How does he translate bar Avza? A goose. Yeah? And make sure you send it my way, v'shodeh aluyeh, and make it fly my way. Ve'ekim, and I'll stand up as if I'm just grabbing the goose. But really, my kavan is to stand up for the Eishes Chaver, the wife of Rav Huna. The other guy's not going to know that's why I'm doing it, and therefore he won't be intimidated. That's the eitzah. Okay, that's interesting, right? Yeah.
How is he even
Taisus is bothered here. What?
How is he even allowed to be the dayan for her if he's really giving her preferential treatment?
Saying he's biased.
Internally, he's saying he's biased because Eishes Chaver Chaver. He's just trying to be Mekayim a mitzvah. It's a mitzvah. It's a mitzvah to be mechaber.
Yeah.
It's not because he likes her better. It's not because he favors her. Right. So how is he allowed to? He should have recused himself from the case. Is that the word?
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
He's sitting before Kodesh Baruch Hu. He said, "Dying supposed to."
Aha.
He's not.
Yeah.
If he did not hear the din before, it's
Yeah.
kasher ledayin.
Right. Taisa is bothered by another kasha. If you're trying to honor her and she doesn't know that you're standing up for her, what kind of honor is that?
Right.
Right? Taisa says you need a kima sheyesh bahidur.
No, maybe she'll
A hidur. Oh.
She'll chaf.
So Taisa she chapped.
If she's Rav Huna's wife.
Yeah, she's Ashes Chaver Chaver. Right, very good. She chapped. Taisa says he isadas shebefanel amad. Right? He only did it not to intimidate the other guy. Okay, very good. So the Gemara weiter. Va'omer mar machloikes b'shas masematen av b'shas gemar din d'rakel dayana b'shiv b'aldina b'amida. What do you mean? He has to sit when he does the gemar din. So how can he do that? So the Gemara says the Yosef command the shara masane. He sat like he leaned, like half sitting, half standing. Like he had some acrobatics over there, where he was able to, define it. You could define it as an amida and as a yeshiva, somewhat at the same time. Okay. When he gave his verdict, that's what he did. You have a Talmud Chacham and Amoritz that come together to the Torah. You seat the Talmud Chacham. You also tell the Amoritz to sit. You don't want to treat the Talmud Chacham better, right? Because then you're going to intimidate the Amoritz. And if the Amoritz insists on standing, we let him stand. In other words, we're going to judge the Torah if the Amoritz insists on standing. Hagam the Talmud Chacham is sitting. That's the Chiddush here. Right? You don't need both of them to have equal positioning. Right here, if it's Talmud Chacham and you offer the Amoritz to sit and he insists on standing, that's okay with Seder Gemur. Okay. Yeah, let him. That's beautiful. Okay. So the Gemara weiter. Rav Bar Shravya have a Ladina Kamad to Rav Papa. Rav Bar Shravya was a Talmud Chacham, came to the Torah to Rav Papa, Oisvei, and they set him down on a chair. For Oisvei and Abel Baldine. His Baldin was not a Talmud Chacham. And they didn't give him a chair, but they said, yes, sit. They also offered him. Also, shliach the beidina, the shliach bezdin, standing there, right? The officer that stands over there next to the judge, making sure that everything is enforced. Says, "Botash bey v'ukmei la'moretz." He kicked his chair from under him, and he had to stand up. V'loy omer Rav Papa tiv, and Rav Papa didn't say a word. He didn't say sit back down. That's it. Say, how was he allowed to do that? What could be more intimidating than that when the officer in the court of law is kicking the chair from underneath one of the guys and lets Rav Bar Shravya sit? So the Gemara says, Omar Rav Papa Neymar Omar Ihu Ha'oisvin. It's not intimidated from the dayan because Rav Papa did offer him to sit. Shlichu d'lebefeismanai. Just the shlich doesn't like me. Okay, that's not intimidating. Because he doesn't give the verdict. Wow. It's the dayan. So therefore it's okay. For Omar Abba Ravuna, right, I can see Reb Shol, if he's a dayan, he'll have an officer in the court of law. If somebody's coming in, he's going to kick his chair. It's mutter, kach if it's against the Talmud Chacham. For Omar Abba Ravuna, Heid Server Rabbanan, Vabar Zis Ladina Ba'adadodi, Uleliktim Server Rabbanan, Velesev, Mishum de Mirzi Command the Sadul Ladina. Halach is that you shouldn't seat the Tzurvim Rabbanan before the dayan. In other words, even though it's Talmud Chacham and he has a right to sit down, we offer him to sit, still don't sit before the dayan. Once you sit before the dayan, that communicates that you're more comfortable with the dayan than your counterpart. Yeah, and therefore don't sit before him. So the Gemara says, it's only if they don't learn B'chavrusa together. But if they learn together, less lamba, that's also not a problem. They're in the middle of a sugya, so that's okay. If you have a Talmud Chacham that has Eidos, he knows Eidos about somebody else, but he doesn't want to go to the Bezdin, because the Bezdin, the Dayanim, are not as big of Talmidei Chachamim as he is. Right? They're lower class Talmidei Chachamim. And it's not covered Torah. We're talking about somebody who's not arrogant, somebody's not doesn't have his ego involved. Yeah? Yeah, you have to be you have to talk about you have to make sure, you have to check. To make sure that's not the case. And Gemara says, Loy Lezel, doesn't have to go. Doesn't have to go.
It's not against the field of...
There's a Gemara in Kedushin, actually learned today, when Rabbi Yehuda was going to the basin of Rabbi Nachman.
Okay.
And there's a whole story. Rabbi Yehuda put this guy in Keren because he insulted somebody else in the line of the butcher.
Yeah.
Right, and he said he's actually, the guy goes around calling everybody a slave. And Yehuda says, no, actually, if you go around calling everybody a slave, then you're actually a slave, so he put him with the chayra.
Yeah.
And then the guy brought a lawsuit against him in the court of Rav Nachman, and then Rabbi Yehuda came down to Rav Nachman.
He said to go check after him, remember? And they found that he is from the slave.
He is from a slave because he comes
Wow, because he's calling everybody.
Yeah, because he tells everybody, you slave,
Right.
Go
Right.
check after him.
Right.
Right. But Rabbi Yehuda says to Rav Nachman, why are you even calling me down here? Why do I even need to go? I'm a bigger Talmud Chacham than you. So he started going this thing, yada yada yada, and then Rav Nachman's wife says to Rav Nachman, look, you know, he's gonna make you look like an Amma Aretz here.
Right.
You know, so
Right.
just let him go, right? Long story
Right.
short, it's like, you know, they had the court case anyway, just for
Interesting.
just for formalities.
Wow, that's interesting. Okay, so that's the halach over here. The halach over here is that you don't have to go, even though you know the edus and it's an isser to withhold edus. But if it's a lower bezdin, then you don't have to go.
הרב עובדיה צריך ללכת למסור עדות לבית דין של הרבנות. Come on.
Yeah, no, it's not bechaved. So, Omar Rav Shish Beit David Afanana Matin. It's a Mishnah about Matzia Motza Sake Kupa Veindar Kalitoil by Shabbos Aveda. We know, right, that the pasuk says V'Salamta Mehem Leisuchel Esalam. So the Gemara asks contradiction: V'Salamta Mehem Leisuchel Esalam. How do you have both? There it says some people, if it's not lefi kvoidan, they are allowed to be misalam. Gemara says, but that's only when it comes to moments. When it comes to isurim, whoa, ein chachma, then it doesn't apply. Okay, we'll stop over here.